Guys, what's going on? Good to see all of you. Or not see you. Good to see me, I guess, because that's really all I'm doing is just staring at my own face. Let's be sure. Okay, yeah, making sure everything's good here. So excited. Had a fantastic weekend. Had a really, really good weekend. And now I'm ready to kind of get back to life. And you know what? One of the big parts of my life is every single Tuesday doing this. So yeah, man, so excited. Let's make this public. Let's use run. Oh, we have comments. We have comments. Yeah, it's my boy Brian. What's going on, dude? Good to see you, man. Really good to see you. We have a great guy coming out today. W.S. Quinton is here. He's going to be talking about his book 47 Furious Tales, and of course about publishing and writing, and he also creates RPGs, so he's going to have a lot of really cool stuff to talk about. So let's share this around, show it off, and hopefully we can get people all interested and excited. um I did have a great time at the Comic Con, Comic Palooza in Houston. Great show. Met all sorts of terrific people. Really felt like I got to dig in and network. I assumed because of my back and stuff, I'd mostly be selling, and it did sell well. It did very good. So I thought I'd mostly be focusing on selling, but actually I got to meet some really cool people. I got to hang out with, of course, my boys, William Wolford and Doug Brown, who I shared a table with. But what was it? You know what? I'll tell this story real quick, because we do have a little bit of time. My guest is grabbing a coffee right now. We it's what is it? Saturday night. So it was a 2-day show. It's Saturday night, and we didn't really have any plans. We were actually trying to find, if is there any industry parties, anyone we can meet up with, what's going on. This was at Comic Palooza, and we were talking with April Reyna, and she's like, "Oh, I'm doing the art auction," and basically you sit down for like 3 hours, you do art, and then they auction off for a good cause, and you get to meet all the other artists and stuff. And Doug was really excited about doing that. And he's like, I really want to do that. And I'm like, dude, it's fucking 8 o'clock. We're gonna be here till 11. I'm hungry. And I'm not a small guy. So I'm all excited to eat and everything, and go somewhere nice. And just, trying to make something of it. And they want to do this. And honestly, there was no better plans that came up. So it's like, okay, let's go do this. So we went to the show. I got to hang out with April. April and I drank together. I ended up drawing with, it's Con Pro Chuck. That's right, man. I ended up sitting down and drawing with her 6-year-old daughter. And a bunch of her daughter ended up drawing like 3 different pictures that were bought up and auctioned off. So that was really cute. And we got to work together on that. And I got to meet a bunch of industry pros and all that. It was so much fun. We had a great time. And then of course by then I'd been drinking well enough. I wasn't drunk, but I was well enough that I wasn't feeling any pain. So I just wandered off, and we had a nice bite to eat, enjoyed the rest of our night, and then the next day woke up and went right back to work again. So yeah, man, it was a really good show. We had a fantastic time. Just had a blast, man. It was a really good time. I do have a little bit of time right now. My guest is still making coffee, so if there's anything you guys want to talk about, if you have any questions about the show this weekend, or shows in general, or anything like that, or Steph, if you just want to razz me and make fun of me, bring it on. Brian says selling comics is great, but I'm sure being able to hang out with everyone feels just as awesome for sure. It feels like fucking summer camp. You know what I mean? Because like we're all kind of there for the same reason. You only get to see each other physically, sometimes once a year, sometimes less, and it just and there's like people coming up. Can you sign my badge? Can you do? It's a lot of cute stuff. Everyone has a really good time. And of course, you're asking everyone, how's your show going? What's going on? Like, you're trying to get the feel of what's going on. Like, however the show is treating me, or however kind of a show I'm having, is it the same for everybody else? So it seemed to be a pretty good show for everybody. I will tell you guys, It was a large number of people. It felt like a normal show. There was probably about 20% of the people that had masks. Um, but I mean, we took it seriously. We had our masks on. We had the hand sanitizer out there. We were, taking it seriously, trying to have a really good time, and I think it went very well, man. Um, uh, we had the print walls, which, oh my gosh, these guys who just sit here and just draw prints. I have to say, for the indie comic industry, that is like the bane of our industry, because those guys. And look, you're probably gonna think I'm talking shit or whatever, and I kind of am. But they sit there and they draw somebody else's characters, and they make a fuck ton of money off of it. And I know that might be like, oh, you're just whining because you're not making the money. It's not about that. It's that, okay, so at Comic Palooza, I think the biggest publisher that was there, technically there was two guys from Marvel. The publisher from President Matt Hawkins from Top Cat was there, and then I think the next company down was Red 5. You know what I mean? Which is, no offense, but it's moving down the list. Great company, but so that's what we're competing with, and having a mask probably helped your booth attendance. Yeah, all three of us. I'm sure it did, man. That and my sexy books. Yeah. I had December Lace right out front there. That helped. So yeah, I mean, you got that, but when you have someone with that big wall there, that's Marvel and DC effectively. You know what I mean? Because that's mostly the characters they're showing off. So you are competing with Marvel and DC even when they don't show up at a show. And that's difficult. It's so frustrating. And they're there because they're at, so many of the booths. They're there at the craft booths. They're there at of course, the print booths. They're there at so many of the booths. So it's just, it's so bloody frustrating. But yeah, that's my little bitch. Is just how annoying that is. But we can get into that later if we want, or we cannot. That's okay too. My guest is here, so I think we're gonna start. Let's have a great fucking show tonight. Let's have a lot of fun, all right? Here. Oh, where the fuck is this thing? There it is. Here we go.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck. Because I care.
What's up? How you doing, bud?
How you doing today, man? Good to see you, Doug.
I'm really good. Guys, now, it's W.S. Quinton, but how do you like to be known as when we're talking back and forth?
My friends call me Sam, man, so you're always welcome on that one.
That's, you know what? I love the short names, and even when someone has a long name, I shorten it somehow. So perfect, Sam. Thank you so much, buddy. And you and I, we've met on a lot of, we actually talk on our own. You'll give me a call now and then, and we'll just shoot the shit and talk business and whatnot. Yeah. But we've also met on tons of shows, you and I, panels and stuff like that. Just, because both of us are out there really trying to push the business, really trying to teach new people and show people what's happening and all that kind of stuff, and push our product too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
the hustle never ends.
No, absolutely. It doesn't. And that's one of the things I respect about you is you're on shows all the time, and that is why I did hold back on you a little bit. I'm like, here, let's see if at the beginning we can get some people who aren't necessarily on shows as often, and then I can bring in some of those faces we see more often, and maybe it'll feel a little fresher. So cool. Yeah, but I'm so happy to have you on, dude. What do we have? We have a couple people commenting on the shit I was talking about. Matt Hawkins is super cool. I met him 2 years back. Yeah, really good dude. Very, very intelligent, very interesting guy. And Clint Farley is here. Hey, dude, what's going on? We miss you at the shows, man. Can't wait to see you back next year. So, Sam, why don't you tell us? You're an indie comic creator and you work on and create RPGs and whatnot, especially modules.
Right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you and Sinopa Publishing do?
Well, we are creating the best quality RPG books and comics that we know how. And then with each book, we, both myself as a writer, and then the art team and our art directors for the various projects and our editors, we try to learn with every project to improve and do better. And the objective here is to produce the highest quality materials for everyone who's going to spend their hard-earned money on us, and to grow the business into something that I can eventually hand down to my kids with those same ethics. And so the principles on this are: we pay our artists as absolutely best as we can, the best wages that we can. We make sure that they're taken care of, IPs are protected, and basically just try to focus on what we're doing. And then when people have a question about how we do things, we try to help other creators to find other opportunities as well. So a good example for this is we have a closed Facebook group for the creative teams. And then when anyone comes to me and says, hey, I need someone who can do colors, do you have someone who can do it? I said, well, so long as you're paying fairly, yeah, here's some people you can go ahead and check out. Post things to that when people are saying, yeah, a paid gig and whatnot, and try and keep everyone working as much as possible so that the artists can be artists as full-time or as close to full-time as possible.
Yeah. Good, man. That's really great to hear. So again, Danny Morales is in the house. What's going on, buddy? Dude, good to see you, man. And we both have books in the collective, right?
Yep. About to have another one. This is the papers that I got from my editor for Death Comes to Glenfollow. Just about done with that and about to send it off to the printer so that I can get those shipped and get those in the stores.
Well, so I keep up with, we love you too, Danny. Thank you so much, man. I do keep up with the collective. I love that store so much. They've been so amazing to me. Don't you also have some RPG modules there as well?
Yeah. They've been carrying not just RPG modules. They've been carrying source books. They've been carrying the Steel Road, Whispers of Persephone, and then I believe they've been carrying the Tarot series as well, if I remember correctly. Or we'll be carrying the Tarot series, actually, starting with issue 3. Let me clarify that. And then also we've sent down some promotional stuff to help, add a little oomph to some of the events, because on Free Comic Day, there's usually not a lot of stuff there targeted for RPG fans. And so we try to make sure we send down like little art print postcards and stuff with characters on them, things like that. Like with that, with your campaign map on the back.
Nice.
Pardon me. Stuff like that. Monsters and all kinds of fun stuff. They also are carrying the Sinopa Omnibus. So issue 1 and issue 2 are out. Hoping to get issue 3 out in November.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he said they're going to feature your RPG on John's Dungeon Corner. He's very excited about that. And the character cards have been really good. So,
yeah,
man. No, that's great. That's really good news. And so that brings me into the start. Usually I always talk about your origins. What is it? I think even before we get into your origins, how do you kind of hold both of these two very, fairly different publishing wings together? How do you kind of jump from RPG to comics and back and forth?
I sacrifice a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
But the nice part about it is where I don't do any of the visual art. I just do the writing and the publishing materials. I have someone else to edit, things like that. The heavy lifting as far as the art goes is something that I don't have to bear. And so working with the writing, by the time I come to the art phase, a book's already been written and done, and we're ready to push it out. We just need the art done. Bouncing back and forth requires a lot of work on the calendar, especially like right now. I've got a couple of things I'm a few days late on. I've got to catch up to, but we've got things like getting ready to finish up the fulfillment of Death Comes to Glenfollow. We're fulfilling Dungeons and Dames next month when the books come back from the printer. In October, we're running the 47 Furious Tales issue 3 campaign and fulfilling in November. In January, we're launching the first book of the new series, Reign of Ages, with me and Nick Capone, fulfilling that in February, into February, first week of March. And then the calendar at that point looks like Kickstarter fulfillment, take a week off, Kickstarter fulfillment, take a week off, Kickstarter fulfillment, take a week off, all the way through 2022. It's a lot of books coming out for it. So the big challenge on that is making sure that I'm on schedule with my writing, editing, rewrites, making sure that I'm on schedule with keeping up with the art development for the pages on the comics, and then also for the RPG stuff, and knowing when everything is due. Really looks a lot like my day job when I was working in law offices, and you had to take and have every single case had its own filing due date and all that. So learning to track that and keep everyone accountable is a little bit of a challenge. So there's always a need to delegate a little bit. So I have an art director for our RPG materials. That's James Lee. And then in two of the projects right now, Alexia is acting as editor on two separate comic runs, two separate comic lines right now. And that, while it adds a little monetary expense, frees up so much time that I actually managed to get at least 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night now.
Wow, congratulations on that.
That's a big perk. It really is. And some nights I actually get 8.
Oh well, dude, that's the dream, right?
I know, right?
Thanks, Danny. You know what?
I slept
I'm not
3
just a
hours
pretty
last
face.
night, for real.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Let's go back to the origins of you. What is it about RPGs and comics that drew you in at a young age?
Comics was really the first one that got me. I don't remember a time when I haven't had comics. My mother, my grandfather, my dad, everyone, when I was really, really young, I mean, as young as 3 or 4, they would pick up comics off the spinner racks at the local store for me. And so every month I'd have, usually Superman was my comic as a kid. And so I came up mostly with DC, and then every once in a while I'd get a Spider-Man book on top of that. So that was a nice change. But that was the same really all through my life until I got to college. And when I got to college, I met this girl. Isn't that how great stories start?
It's always a girl. Yeah, absolutely.
I met this girl. She was really pretty and really smart, and I really liked her a lot. And she would not go out with me unless I joined her D&D group.
Oh, that sounds like a fucking dream.
And so that's how I ended up playing D&D with her friends, who then became my friends. And when she and I broke up, we just kept playing.
Oh, wow.
And so the game went on, and fell into like a group of really tight friends who we keep playing to this day. So that fast forward up to 1999, and I decided to open my own comic shop. And about a year later, I ended up getting divorced, and I sold. As I was looking at getting divorced, I sold the shop to a friend of mine, so I could try and work on my marriage a little bit to try and stave it off, which didn't work. I still ended up getting divorced. But then I came back to help run the place about a year and a half later, and ran that until it closed down in late 2004. But never lost the love of comics, never. And having both be something I wanted to do was always in my mind. And the thing is that RPGs they're pretty art intensive, but you can squeeze, a 60-page book and get, 12 illustrations or even less sometimes if you're depending on what you're doing with it, and put it out. But if you've got a 20-page comic, then you've got 20 pages of sequential art, your cover art, whatever you're doing on the interior of the covers. There's a lot to that. And so I find that on the whole, so far anyway, hey Heather, comics are usually a little more monetarily price intensive. Now for big supplement books, that isn't really the case. So when you look at something like Whispers of Persephone or The Steel Road, where you've got 100-something illustrations, then obviously that swings back the other way.
Yeah.
But for adventures and little source books like the Omnibus usually has 6 or 7 illustrations in it, and then the cover art. So it's not very art intensive. They're about 60 pages long and all, with some nice full page illustrations, things like that. So one of the nice things about that is I started with the RPG stuff because that's where we could really get a foot in with the open game license in D&D. And that helped to start generating a little bit of money to make the next project. And that snowballed into a little bit more money to make the next project. And then by keeping rolling in the money into the next project, it helped us to do a little bit bigger things. And so that's how we got to where we were doing The Steel Road. That's how we got to where we were doing Whispers of Persephone. And then that's how we eventually got to do 47 Furious Tales.
Nice. Josh Bain's in the house. Good to see you, my man. Yeah, no, dude. I mean, as Danny said before, actually he said it right here. I got to say, I don't know how Sam does it. All that, and he's got the little one to take care of.
And a day job, too. Single dad, day job, plus run Sonoma. And that's why I'm a few days behind on some things right now.
I'm sure everybody understands, of course.
We'll hope so. We will hope so.
Catherine Kilner, what's going on there, cuz? Glad to see you. If you guys have any questions for Sam today about creating comics or about his books or about his RPGs, feel free to hit him up. You know us, we're a very open book, so hit it up. Jason Doobie's here. What's up? Thank you so much, man. So glad that so many great people are out checking it out, and of course, learning about Sam and what he does and how he does it. Holy shit. I know that the main place that you get your art from is the Kubert School.
Right.
What about as far as writing comics and whatnot? Like, is that where you got a lot of? Where did you kind of get your education and sort of your lumps, so to speak, as far as being able to write and create comics?
I guess with comics, I guess you would consider me self-taught, but that's really doesn't do justice because I asked questions, like, hey, look at Larry.
What's up, buddy?
So I asked questions of people, like you've heard me anywhere I'm ever at. I always got a question for somebody because there's always something I want to know. And so even on social media channels, like I remember one time Jimmy Palmiotti was making a comment about writing comics, and I asked him some question about how you move the narrative along to make sure that you're flowing well between the pages. And he said that's kind of the big trick. He's like, what you really have to do is make sure that the action on that bottom right is really pulling that page over, or something to that effect. And I remember that stuck to me really, really hard because, of course, we were looking at the page layout for 47 Furious Tales issue 1, and of course that whole series is inspired a lot since it's historical Japanese story. The storytelling, though, is inspired a lot by Akira Kurosawa movies. So finding that way to kind of make you want to turn that page the resolve of the action and what the next step in the story is and where this character is going, and get people into it, immersed in it. That's a challenge. But I was really fortunate because I hire a lot of people from the Kubert School to work. And so what I have is for example, Alexia. Alexia is really good at editing and making corrections. Like I've got a stack of stuff over here for Reign of Ages where I'm making corrections before we get our pages started to make sure that the narrative is actually paced right and make sure it's engaging.
Yeah.
Having someone who's professionally trained and who knows what they're doing and who you can communicate with, that's important. Now, there are times when you don't agree. And so I'm a big believer in listening and sharing ideas back and forth. And I'll tell you, there's been many times when I have ceded to someone else's point, whether it be Nick Capone's or whether it be Christian Martinez or whether it be Brian Lee or Alexia Veldhausen. Usually Alexia, because I work probably with Alexia more than anyone for the last couple of years. When they clearly are correct, I try to make sure that the ego is not in the way. I think a lot of people who know me are really surprised about that in my personal life, because I kind of get the big head, and boisterous personality thing going. But when it comes to something I know I need to learn about, and I think we all should take this into consideration. When someone knows more than you do, when they know what they're talking about, you have to be ready to make changes to grow as a creator. You can't just assume that you know it all and that everything you do is right and everything you do is the way you want it and it's the way I want it, so there. Because that's not going to function when you take and bring your creations into a business, right? Because you need something that's presented in a way that engages your audience and keeps engaging them so that you can keep them entertained, keep them coming back to your product lines. And so finding a way to tell the best story you can, even if it might not be natural to the way you think or natural to the way you speak or natural to the way you write, but by making those corrections to make it more natural when you read it, that's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's been a huge part of my own training, just trying to, absolutely. So, I completely agree with you there. Danny says 47 Furious Tales has outsold many different image books in our store. So that's a huge deal. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And Danny, Belial 2 is in my hands. So let me know how Belial 1 has done over there. If you need some more, we'll talk.
I'll tell you, Danny took a chance on 47. Mm-hmm. We sent them that, sent the PDF first and the small shipment. Small shipment went like that. I think we're at 4 or 5 shipments of 47 books right now, just to that location. And now we're in more stores. Now we're in 13 with 2 more stores finalizing their orders. Basically, I'm just waiting on them to pay their invoice. And then I shipped to a chain of stores. They have 6 locations out on the East Coast, Third Eye Comics. And I shipped 100 books to them last week. So that was a huge deal for me, to get on shelves in 6 different locations. And then working on distribution on the West Coast. We've got my buddy Adam Watson with Dark Slinger Comics opened his distribution company, and we're going to be shipping probably about 700 books out there in the next week or so to get them on the shelves in August. So we're going to have 47 Furious Tales in dispensaries and mom and pop groceries and all over the place on spinner racks, just like when I was a kid.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah, I just I would love to be able to tour around on the West Coast and take a look at these and see what they look like, So he's actually just sent materials to their sales guys, which they got today. So we'll hopefully be shipping out many more books in the future too.
That's amazing.
But every single store Every single store is such an important step, because that's where I started reading comics. That's where a lot of us go to get our books every month, or sometimes some of us every week. Not me, but I'm more of a month to month guy. But one of the things that came up, and you and I have talked about this at length off camera, is as an indie comic creator, it's really hard to get books on the shelf at a price point that's comfortable for the reader and the store. And so the thing about that is you have to achieve that economy of scale to get your price per book down. And that usually means printing, 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 books. So to be able to get to that, you have to be willing to make that investment and then work to clear that inventory. Yeah. I think I'm pretty certain about this, because our first print run of a cover one for 47 Furious Tales was 500 books, and of course we sold out. Right, I've got a little stack for friends and family that I'm still sitting on, for some folks who are like, oh no, sell them. Like, well, they're yours, and that whole drama. But then I ordered 3,000 copies with cover 2. And so that has been an immense help, because out of that, we had, of course, stock to fulfill for issue 2's Kickstarter campaign for copies of issue 1. We've been shipping to 12 other stores other than the Collective so far, and of course the Collective when they need more. And being able to do that at that price point where they're able to double their money on the shelf without causing pain to the consumer, I call that a win.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Someone came in here. I lost it for a sec. But yeah, man. No, I mean, that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of times, especially in indie comics, they want to do it all. But I think really a lot. I mean, so I'm working with a guy right now. Fantastic guy. He's done a bunch of issues of his book and whatnot. And he has other series out, and so we're working on a new series. And I asked him something that I don't think any of his editors had ever asked him before. I said, what is your path? And he was like, I just want to make comics. And I was like, no, you're taking this too seriously to give me that shitty answer. What is actually your path? What are you aiming for? And I think he was a little taken back by the honesty of my statement. And he was just like, I don't know, I'll think about that. And he came back to me and he was like, you know what? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I'm taking everything seriously as far as making comics, creating comics, all that. But I'm not taking seriously where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And he said, I didn't realize the importance of that. Because the problem is like, there's certain books that, you know what? They can have a life of their own just on Kickstarter and make, $50,000-$60,000 just there and go, oh shit, I don't need to worry about, necessarily trying to get into stores or anything like that, because maybe you've got a collector's market that you're hitting, or, you've got your own thing happening. And so stores aren't necessarily, you're losing money on stores and not making as much as if you just did Kickstarter. And that's perfectly fine. Of course, stores are an important part of what we're doing, but they're not necessarily going to be for everybody.
Right.
So the idea of having your book in a store is nice, but why are you doing that? And if you're doing that, how are you doing that and making sure that both you and they make money, which is why, as you said, being able to drop your printing price and being able to find other ways of, like this distribution company and whatnot, being able to find ways to get you into a mass market and whatnot, all of that is huge and a big help to you. So those are the kinds of things, like discovering your path, understanding your path. Like for me, I'm not, and I've said it before, people are like, why isn't Bonfire Press doing more? Because I'm not all about Bonfire Press, my own publishing company. Publishing is not where I want to be. I want to be creating. I want to be writing for someone else, editing for someone else. I want to be in the shit with other companies, as many of them as possible, out there doing that. That's my path. That's what I'm aiming for. So Belial and Welcome to the Void and all the things that I edit and everything like that, that's to show that I know what I'm doing. I can write, I can do all sorts of fun, neat stuff. And that's to show off what I'm able to do and how I can do it. So with you, you're able to do that, but you're also going, I'm actually also a very viable publisher. I can get you a shit ton of books. We can sell them at stores and we can all make money. And that's something that to be honest, I don't have the capital for. I don't have the time for. I don't have the inclination for. And there's no like, I completely respect what you do. It's just, we're in the same business doing things completely different and aiming for different things. And that's the fun thing, I think, about this business. But at the end of the day, people have to do what you and I have done. And that is focus on what we want out of the business and looking and going, where is my path and how am I going to get there? And I think that's something that you and I have both worked very hard on. I mean, you could tell just by all the moves you're making, the way that you're making them and all that. You've obviously focused on that. What was that? Were there other things that you were planning on doing, or did you always kind of have a very good idea of where you were going?
There's a lot of things I want to grow into. One of the first things we want to be able to do is get obviously into as many shops as we can. 13, 15 just isn't going to cut it. We need to get to 500, 600 and then 1,000 stores all across the United States is probably the next big logistical goal on the comic distribution front on that, and that's including stores through other distributors. Is and we'll be adding obviously a lot in August, but that's the numbers. I don't have those in front of me yet. But the path forward on that really hinges on the revenue we generate. Because one, obviously, we have to have the revenue because we have to pay our people. We have to pay our people well. It's just expected for everyone who's worked with us now, and it's important. It's the moral and ethical thing to do. And so as we generate revenue and we create more product and we gain more engagement with our audience, as the business grows, I want to eventually grow into animation. We'd like to produce some animated content eventually. Who knows? Maybe in 30 years we'll have our own animation studio. But the path forward is difficult. It's going to be one that's going to take a lot of patience, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of work. And the thing too about this that I think is one thing that's hard for people to come to terms with is you're going to have people tell you no a lot. Okay. So I talk to shops every day. I call during my lunch break. I call after work's done. I don't call on Wednesdays because it's New Comic Day and you just don't do that shit. But I hear a lot of no's. I hear a lot of, well, we only order stuff through Diamond, or we're only ordering stuff, through this particular distributor or that particular distributor. That's cool. Can I go ahead and send you the PDF anyway? Take a look at it. If you change your mind, reach out to me. It's no big deal. Not a lot of stress. Not a lot of pressure. But the fun part about this is, well, a good example of this is the Garden State Comic Festival. I was there with Alexia and Delia Gunderson. We sold 185 or 187 books. I never can remember what the final total was. It was one of the two. Including a batch to Eastside Mags, who had been telling us they wanted to support the title and wanted to get that in. And after holding the book in hand, they went pretty big. So we had a very sizable order for them that we fulfilled right at the end of the shop, because of course I brought a lot of extra with me right at the end of the show, rather. And then prints and everything. They gave us a big section of wall space in their store. And when you look at their Instagram account from day 1 to day 2 to day 3, you see these number of prints just shrink, and like these stacks of 47 Furious Tales issue 1 and then the 3 covers of issue 2, and then it just shrinks down to 1 stack on the shelf. And I'm like, there you go. There you go. That's what we like to see. People selling books. And turning things like that into subsequent orders. What if you would have told me last year while we were getting ready to relaunch to try and fund 47 Furious Tales issue 2 that this year I would be sitting on more than 400 copies in pre-orders for issue 3, I would tell you you're out of your mind. But we've already got pre-orders in for a little over 400 copies just for issue 3. And the stores that have ordered it so far, the smallest order we've gotten so far has been 30 books. And that's a lot of copies for an indie book.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
I mean, that to me is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So
But that's a testament to the work that you've done just trying to get it on shelves and the work that you did fucking making the book, you know?
a lot of the credit of making the book goes to Alexia. Alexia did an absolutely fantastic job with the art. There were some things he questioned early on. For instance, everyone asked about the size, and I've gone over that so many times. But then there's also things like, well, why are you going to use the more expensive paper? Why are you going to use the heavier grade? And it's for the customer experience. I mean, you've got 47. Mm-hmm. And I know that I probably talked your ear off about how it feels in your hand.
Yes.
But it's a big difference between when you hear me talk about it and between you when you put it in your hands, you know, because that book just feels nice. It's a real good sensory experience.
You shouldn't be able to hold balance a comic book on your finger like a plate. And yet yours, you can't.
Right. I mean, it'll stand up. Everyone's seen it stand. You know?
Yeah.
But we had to have the high quality stuff because to my thinking, when you kickstart something, you produce the best quality thing you can.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that lends itself to why it sells on shelves. The nice thing about this is that, well, you've seen my Kickstarter campaigns. You know, my Kickstarter campaigns aren't charging, really high prices. I mean, honestly, you pay more for shipping than you do for the book in most cases.
Yeah.
But when you can ship to stores, you're distributing that shipping cost across all those books. And so if I walk into Third Eye Comics, or if I walk into the Gotham Underground or the Collective, or the Hive, or Dewey's, or any one of the stores that's carrying us, you can walk in and get 47 Furious Tales off the shelf for $5. Or if it's one of the signed copies that's gone there, some of the stores have marked those up a little bit because they're signed by me and Alexia. That's completely cool. And I think that's nice to see in bringing a Kickstarter book to the public. At equivalent prices that you had on the Kickstarter. The only difference being the shipping costs,
He says, dang, do those comics double as secret weapons as well? Got to be careful with that kind of quality.
Well, I'll tell you, if you drop a case of them when you're offloading a pallet, one, your heart sinks into your stomach because you're like, oh my God, I may have just ruined 180 books. But then you realize, well, I just dropped 50 pounds onto my shins and caught it on my thigh, or on my thighs rather, and caught it like this. And I'm going to feel that for the next couple of days. But yeah, it's got some weight to it.
Yeah, it does, man.
It has enough weight to it. It affects the shipping costs. Let's put it that way. Because
sorry,
I shipped two to a guy who owns a shop in South Carolina this morning because he decided that he was interested. So what he did was he supported the Indiegogo campaign, which is still in demand. And he said, I'll just buy the book from there and I'll see how it shows up and everything's fine. So he sent like the pledge last night at like 10 something in email at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what was going on about that. And I woke up to it this morning. I'm like, package out the door and out for the morning mail. No. And so he'll get that actually Friday.
Okay,
So, and it went out this morning. So
that's cool.
yeah, and it's just quick to ship. Nice, easy, and to the point. Like when we shipped to Third Eye, we got the invoice paid in and shipped it on Saturday morning, and they received it Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was in time for new comic book day on Wednesday.
That's cool. Niobe Comics mentioned Diamond. Is there any thoughts about going with them, or do you feel like you're not ready, or you want to find a way around that, or what?
The thing about Diamond, I used to do business with Diamond when I owned a comic shop. So I've got an old impression of them from the early 2000s. Looking at how they do business, I'm not averse to distributing through Diamond, but the thing is I don't know how many shops are going to keep using Diamond right now. You know,
Yeah.
With Marvel and DC having basically said we're going to find other options. I mean, yeah, that brings you still got Image and Art Press and Boom, IDW, all these fine publishing companies. They're still going through Diamond, and that works. But the other thing too is the release schedule. So for 47, for example, it's basically a quarterly release because it takes time to produce this book in the manner that we're doing it. Now there's some other books coming out that production schedule will get a little faster. It won't be Reign of Ages, it won't be Necroholic or 47, but when Super Willow comes out, I think we can get that into a monthly rotation. It looks like we would be able to on paper, so I'll let you know how that works out once we get there. But the big thing about Diamond being that consecutive solicitation from it, and then of course there's the payment schedule. Have you looked into how Diamond pays out to your publisher?
No, not yet.
Okay, so my understanding, and again, I've never distributed from them, this is just my take on from what I've read from the website. It would take me more than 6 months to get paid from the time I ship the books to their warehouse. Okay, 6 months is a long time for me to be waiting on a paycheck for a shipment I've already sent. And I understand they're handling tremendous volume. I'm not trying to debase their value or anything on it. But I can invoice a shop, get that paid through PayPal, keep my own accounts in my QuickBooks, and I've got the stuff shipped out the following morning. And I'm not losing 20% off the top, So that's good. And then with this distribution on the West Coast, I'm getting paid the following month. So
Jason Doobie agree. He says you're right on the 6 months.
Yeah. So yeah,
Wait
6
time,
month
yeah.
wait time. Yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
I would. The thing that bothers me a lot about that is if I'm shipping books to them and then they are in a situation again where they're not shipping and people aren't getting paid, I don't have the capital on hand to keep my production up. And while Marvel and DC apparently were perfectly fine with telling people to put their pencils down and go home, well, I don't just send out mass mails. I call people and I talk to them like I'm talking to you now, eye to eye. So if you think I want to take and get on a voice thing and look Alexia and Nick and Brian and all of them in the eye and say, no one gets paid for 4 months, you're out of your mind. So oddly enough, when Marvel and DC stopped shipping, we kept shipping. So we sold a lot of books while they were down because comic shops were really, really wanting books to sell. They needed inventory. A lot of them cleared backstock. A lot of them used their online auctions and things like that. But just ask Danny at the Collective. We shipped a lot of books to them. We shipped a lot of books to the Hive, to Dewey's, to Gotham Underground. We moved a lot of merchandise. And again, managed to keep our pricing so that they're at a 50% of their sale price, so they're doubling their money on their sales. So
Yeah.
it's a nice relationship. And
So,
real quick, the thing about that I think people forget is that you can have the best comic book in the world, but if the comic shop can't make money on it,
yeah.
they can't carry it. Their business is just like your business, right? So you've got to make sure that you're making money and that the people selling your book are making money. Okay? So if you make money making it and shipping it and they make money selling it on the end, you're going to keep making money as that relationship keeps growing.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy comic shops are good for your business, just as much as healthy digital sales are good for your business, and healthy print on demand sales are good for your business, just as your Patreon is good for your business. All of it comes together.
Yeah. I have to apologize to Larry real quick. He said, "Oh, you assume I meant you would publish." I'm suggesting shopping the title around to publishers and let them handle. Sorry, that was the way I delivered it, because that's what I assumed. So my apologies. He means, what are the chances, I guess, that you would shop your title out to other publishers?
I think if I had the how to answer this, let's use 47 as an example. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
When 47 Furious Tales gets to issue, say, 10, right? We'll only have 2 issues left in the series. And at that point, I would be pretty comfortable with saying, hey, let's see if we can go to a global release with, Diamond through maybe Image or through Antarctic Press or, something similar. Somewhere where the IP control is still firmly with Sinopa and myself, so that I can continue to protect the interests of the people who also have contractual interests in the IP. Then yeah, because if it's good for the sales, it's going to be good for me and for the people who are working for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. What's your path? What does that look like? What are you trying to do in the business, for yourself, for your company, for everything? So yeah.
So the path forward is like I said, it's busy. The crowdfunding aspect, our goal for issue 3 is to get 200 backers. We haven't yet had a 200 backer campaign for our 2 comic issues that have come out. So we're shooting for 200. And then as far as our distribution, I would like to see us with 1,000 copies pre-ordered for issue 4 by the time we go to Kickstarter. That will be a huge step in the right direction. So we got to do a little more than double where we're at right now. So we need to keep adding stores. I want to keep, those stores. Obviously, the stores that we've been dealing with, I take a lot of pride in taking good care of them. So we want to make sure that we keep good, strong relationships with all of them. Places like the Box down in Louisiana, we sent them our first shipment of posters for 47. They actually ordered a poster shipment. And so if you want 47 Furious Tale posters, you can get it there. But they had one that I had sent them to help promo it because they're a brand new shop. They had just opened, right? And they're primarily indie titles. And so we sent them one that they could put up and decorate the store. And they had a kid who came in, and he's, I guess, a young teenager or something. He's in the shop all the time. His birthday was coming up. They wanted to give him a poster because he's been, real good about bringing in people and, real good kid apparently. I'm like, yeah, let's get you guys some posters down there and make that happen. And so between that, now we can ship some more. I just shipped one with an art trade to Pete the other day, and he sent a box of arts that he had done up for My Hero Academia and other characters like Pikachu and stuff for my daughter, for like a late birthday thing was where we were going with that. And little things like that, keep the community strong. Good. So being able to get into these shops and then also be able to point other creators into those shops, like say, hey, if you're liking stuff that I'm making, you should look into carrying things like Boston Metaphysical Society from Madeline. You should look into carrying Miskatonic High from Mike Shea, Geek Girl from Sam Johnson, Ghost Assassin from Adam Watson. You should carry Belial. You should be carrying Niobe, you know.
Yeah.
And you should be carrying Mary Machine Gun, you know.
Yeah, issue 2's out now,
Issue
right?
2,
On
yeah.
Kickstarter. Yep.
Yeah, I was backer number 99 because I missed the launch notification somehow. But I was like, oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, he
Boston
mentioned a lot of
Metaphysical is awesome.
he mentioned a lot of great books there. He really did. And yeah, Nailby, Larry, you know your stuff. Yeah, I mean that's important, and that's all we're really saying. So yeah, man, find your path, do what you're doing, and I mean even that. It took you a while to kind of figure out and get to it, and you're doing it, and that's great. And it takes all of us a lot. It's a lot of learning and going
Larry's
through.
an amazing success story, really. I mean, he really is. He's done so much great stuff with Naomi. I tell you, I love Naomi. It's really, really cool. When I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a little bit different. You know, I was expecting a little different, but when you open it up, it kind of reads a lot like a kind of a girl power story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot to Niobe. It's, you know, not to sound like a snob or anything, but it's kind of an elite book. It really is. You know, he's telling some strong stories that aren't exploitive. They don't talk down to the reader. You know, they give you good narrative, which is, you know, it's not hard to find if you know where to look. But I mean, I've stopped buying pretty much most of the books I used to love. And, you know, now the books that are coming out that are on mass distribution that I'm buying are basically ones for my kids, you know? So my pull box has My Little Pony for my daughter, you know? So
yeah, I'm almost completely indie myself. Pretty much everything I get is either, you know, picking them up at shops, picking them up at conventions, you know, trading off with people and whatnot, or Kickstarters is huge. Kickstarter's the biggest distributor of comics for me.
It's
Brian,
the third largest distributor in the United States right now.
Yes, I have heard that. Yeah, that's fucking huge, and we're through that. You know, like that's pretty amazing. Brian Manell asked a question earlier. Brian, I always get to your questions. Just sometimes I got to fight in the right spot, and we were taking care of some other stuff.
Sorry.
He said, no, dude. We were on a tangent. So we'll come back. We're just gonna come back to this. Through getting advice and suggestions from others while creating your stories, what were some new things or nuances you learned as a result of those changes that benefited you as a writer? So basically, kind of, it's a big question, but kind of, what are some tips and some tricks and whatnot that you picked up in your writing as you got advice from others?
For comics, I had a bad habit in my drafts of writing too many splash pages, and splash pages need to be impactful, particularly in that section of the story. So overusing that kind of dulls that edge. Now I do use like 2-page spreads for, you know, grand scenes, stuff like that. But like those real big splash action pages that you do, like these fierce climaxes in a fight or something like that, you can't have a bunch of those in a floppy. You need to really restrain it and make it count. And that's, I think, one of the big things that I like to think is helping me going forward. The other thing is being mindful of how things look when you turn the page. So one of the things, let me see if I've got it handy. Hold on a second. One of the things I've done is, here we go. I've taking my notepads, and I have my page, and then I turn it. I've got, okay, this is 2, this is 3, and I can kind of get a feel for how this book is going to look from the way I'm writing it. And it might seem overly simplistic, but I find it's really helpful. So I see, okay, how am I going to get people to turn this page from page 3 to page 4? How am I going to get people to come straight from 3 to the top of 4 and find out what's going on? You know, where is that focus? Where am I going to put them? Where am I taking them? Where is the story going to bring them along? And so being mindful of the format that we're working in is a big one. Now, here's the thing too. That's pretty particular to writing for print. Okay. So I listen to a lot of people about the creation of comics. I listen to Larry. I listen to Pete Samedi, who's a big influence, I think. Adam Watson, who's been doing this a hell of a lot longer than I have. I listen to anyone who you could probably name at the Kubert School when they're presenting. Fernando Ruiz, particularly, I've been watching Draw and Talk for 2 years too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that came up on Draw and Talk earlier, like the last episode that came out, is something that I was talking about with folks just a couple of months ago, is that your comics, this is your format, right? You're reading like this. But when you're going through your digital locations like Tapas or I just drew a blank.
Webtoons,
thank you. The biggest one on the block.
Yeah, right.
Webtoons, your narrative is read entirely differently. So you've got to, instead of focusing on your stories here, you're really just turning it and bringing it up and revealing stuff as it comes up. And I think you need to be mindful of that in your storytelling. I'm finding it a little challenging personally to come to terms with how to tell a story that way. So that's why you don't see my stuff on Webtoons yet, because I need to, figure out a new way to lay information out, a new way to tell the story, one that isn't one I'm very, very acclimated to yet. So that's another thing I learned, is that all media are not the same.
Yeah.
You can put your pages on Webtoon, but it's not going to have the same impact. It's not going to read the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's not where I'm at right now. So that's not really, but I mean, I find reading them helps an awful lot. You know what I mean? Like going through successful ones and seeing how they lay themselves out and all that.
Definitely.
Catherine Kilner, not a comic creator, but she asked, do you guys need to sell your books to comic stores to have them sell your comics? I'll throw that one to you first, but I'm sure we both feel the same way.
Well, I sell my books directly to consumers also. But selling to shops is healthier for, I think, the hobby.
Yeah.
And that sounds a little vague. So the specifics of it are this. When I sell a book through Kickstarter or Indiegogo or through my PayPal invoices to someone, or, drive-through comics or whatever, the shipping cost is something that's borne by the buyer. And with comics in particular, unless you're looking at like trades or digest or something, that shipping cost is almost always higher than the cost of the book. So by getting into shops, you can put your books on the shelf at a price point that's more in line with what people are used to paying for comics, in places where people are looking to buy comics, and sold by people who know comics. So you have, I think, an easier time getting your book into the hands of fans. Now, Danny Morales could probably speak better to this than I think probably any other 10 people that I know right now, because he's sold a lot of my books. Like between issue 1 and issue 2, Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're over. I know you're over 80 copies sold already. Between both issues. I think you're actually over 90, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to pull up the invoices. But moving that kind of volume in one location and being able to price them at something that's fair to the buyer. So instead of paying like $5 for me and then $6 or $7 or whatever it is to ship it, they just get to their store, pull the comics they're going to go, oh, 47 issue 3's in, put it in their hand, $5, and they're done and they're out the door. And that puts the book into more people's hands. It grows your brand. It increases your fan base. And it helps keep a healthy hobby, because you're not trying to rake all of your money out of every single person. You can't just keep taking and taking and taking money in largesse out of everyone just because, you want to stick a $20 price tag on a comic. it's just not going to work. Eventually people are going to say, well, I kind of want the new Last Ronin issue, so I'm going to skip this issue of 47 because I don't want to pay $12 to get the book and get it shipped to me.
Yeah.
When I can pay, what is it, $7 for the Last Ronin, I think, on the shelf.
Yeah, $7.99 or something. Yeah,
something like that. So keeping your customers happy, i.e. the store happy, and the people who are buying from them, is good for all of us.
Yeah. So you don't have to sell to comic stores or go through distribution or anything, but it is a viable way of getting your book out into the mass market and whatnot. We haven't done that as much with Belial, but we have done it, and we would like to do more of it. And we are already shopping it and showing it off to publishers who can do that when the series is done, because it is just a 4-parter. So that is in the books. It just won't be necessarily us putting it in the shops. But it's a nice thing if you can do it. Our time is starting to come up. We've had a really good talk so far. Is there anything else you want to talk about in closing?
Yeah. Max has Mary Machine Gun issue 2 on Kickstarter right now. I personally have Mary Machine Gun issue 1. I thought it was a fantastic comic. I'm looking forward to issue 2. I've backed that one. Come on out and show some support for Max. If you're not certain it's in your wheelhouse, you can check it out and get it on digital. There's a digital option for there. Likewise, 47 Furious Tales is available in demand on Indiegogo, and we have some really sweet price points on that. You can get issue 1 and issue 2, one copy of each for $9 plus your shipping. In the United States, it comes out to $15 exactly. Or if you just want digital, we have it discounted through the Indiegogo. It's $2, and you get both copies digitally. So I ship stuff every day that anything gets pledged. It goes out the next morning. But there's one other thing too that to talk about. Back to the whole healthy comic environment and selling stuff through the shop. I mean, we sell online. We sell at cons. We sell in personal appearances. But there's only so many personal appearances and cons you can do in a given year. Having your shop in a few dozen places, a few hundred places, creates the opportunity to sell more of that product. And while that sounds really appealing on the business aspect, from a creator at my level, as far as with regard to the capital that we have in, it's absolutely critical, because having that money coming in means that my Kickstarter goals can come down lower to get the book out. So right now, where we have like $6,000 goals, almost all of that's in art costs, right? And then in the business back end, I'm printing books and then distributing them. So yeah, having them on shops is absolutely critically important. That shop space, that shelf space is absolute, valuable real estate. And we're lucky, really, that so many shops have taken the chance on 47, and we're even more fortunate that the fans have picked it up and made it worth them coming back and ordering more.
That's all. Yeah, good. That's good stuff. And you're absolutely right. We do, it's a part of the circle of comic life, so to speak.
It sure is. It sure is.
All right. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for coming out, educating us, showing us what you do, and talking about you do, pulling back that curtain a little bit. We really appreciate you. Guys, go check out Sonopa. Check out what's coming out next for you guys.
We are shipping Dungeons and Dames next month for that Kickstarter. Our next Kickstarter campaign is issue 3 of 47 Furious Tales, which is going to go live October 1st. And then we're going to ship in November. We're going to take December off to help, mostly off. Nick Capone will be finishing Reign of Ages Volume 1 for that. But yeah, our next Kickstarter publication is 47 Furious Tales issue 3. You can get a digital copy of all of our books through Drive-Thru Comics and Drive-Thru RPG, which is our primary online store. Still getting around on how we're going to build out the Amazon store, but we'll get there probably by the end of this year. But yeah, really looking forward to that. We have the cover done. That's the cover by Alexia Veldhausen.
Oh, nice. Sorry. That's cool.
And we have a variant cover by Paul Walcott. He and I are having a meeting this week to go over the contract details on that. Paul did a variant for issue 2, which was the samurai squirrel under the moon with the blade out. It had a kind of a manga-esque feel to it. I don't know why I'm describing it. Well, I can just show you. Yeah, the Paul Walcott cover. And then we'll probably be ready to start showing off the cover for Reign of Ages in October when we launch 47 Furious Tales issue 3. It is all the line art, all the inking is done. The artist is flatting that, and we'll be moving on to colors. She's a remarkable professional, but we gave her plenty of time to work on it so that she didn't have to rush anything. So she's taking her time and just doing a beautiful job on it. I think when you see it, Chuck, you're going to be blown away.
I absolutely believe it. Sorry. Trying to take care of some stuff behind the scenes as well.
That's okay. So what's your next one?
Man, you know what? There's just been a bunch of stuff that's kind of come up and run off. And right now, most of what I'm pushing is Chronicles of the Essence Guard, which is out every other week on all of the major podcasting networks. And of course, Essence House, the book is out. It's going to Kickstarter backers right now. You're going to be able to find it on Amazon really soon. And we're already partway through the next one. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to reading Essence House.
Thank you, man.
I supported that one. Yeah, so.
Oh, good. No, thank you, man. Yeah. It's going to be on its way very soon.
For those of you who don't know, my rule is if Chuck is on the book and I can afford it, I back it. You know, the problem is Chuck is on like 5 or 6 books at a time that are on Kickstarter, so I kind of have to pick the one I really want. But yeah, and as far as books, I'm going to be supporting the next Boston Metaphysical Society, definitely. The next Geek Girl, definitely. Obviously, the next Niobe. I've already pledged for Mary Machine Gun. Neo Tokyo #2 when it launches, I think next year. I'll be backing that one.
That's right. We talked to Max about that one. Yeah.
I am keeping an eye on the next Mojo Risen book, and then also for some work coming out by my buddy Joey Pineda, who has done Trouble's Back and Cubicle Wars. The man is simply remarkable, and I think he's really ready to just bust out on the scene pretty hard. And then, of course, anything written by Brian Hawkins or anything written by Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah. Those are some good picks, man. Those are some really good picks.
Yeah. And, of course, every single month, My Little Pony for my daughter.
without a doubt.
I go to comic shops. I show them Bloody Samurai action with these anthropomorphic animals. And, like, by the way, do you have, by any chance, My Little Pony number 72? My daughter needs it for a collection. And they're like, sure, it's for your daughter. I'm like, no, for real, it's for my daughter. She's a big My Little Pony fan.
Did you get her into the My Little Pony and Transformers crossover?
I did not. Just because I just didn't see it. You know, I don't think she's gonna.
It felt weird.
Yeah,
I feel you.
I don't know.
Supposedly it worked, but yeah, I was like, I was never gonna be your audience.
So, but she likes it, and the fun part is she's 7 now, so we're at that point where sometimes bedtime stories are just reading a comic book, you know, and that's a lot of fun where we just sit there and flip through the pages, and she likes to do voices for the different ponies and stuff, and it's just a lot of fun.
Aw. That's great, dude. Keep it up. Keep bringing it out to the next generation. And actually, you know what? As we start to get out that's something that I'm gonna play off of. Something happened this weekend at the convention. First off, Cat Dad sold really well. Cat Dad and Supermom sold it great. Tons of kids picked it up. It was absolutely amazing. But I did notice one thing, and I want you guys to think about this as you move forward with your own kids and all that kind of stuff, because it was really disturbing. It was just one little incident. There was a father and the wife and a little boy, and I think the little boy was dressed up as Superman or something. And I said, "Hey, buddy, are you into comics at all?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, I want to." And Dad was like, "Well, he doesn't really read a lot." I'm like, "Well, if he wants to, like he can flip through this right here." And he goes, "Oh no, I don't know about that." I'm like, "It's not a big deal if he will, if it doesn't bother me if he reads it." Oh, okay. So the kid grabs a book and starts reading. He's obviously reading it and enjoying it. I don't give a shit if he reads the whole fucking thing. Like, it doesn't matter to me, because I believe he's going to read it and like it. So he's reading it, and the whole time he's reading it, Mom has now wandered off to check out crafts, and Dad keeps poking him and going, "Look at that picture." And he keeps pointing at the print wall that's next to us and pointing at all the different prints. And I'm like, this kid is trying to read and glean knowledge, and you keep going, "Pretty picture, pretty picture, pretty picture." Like, I get that you want to share your appreciation for art and your love of things with other people, but when your kid is right fucking there trying to learn and better themselves, get out of the fucking road, leave them alone, because guess what? When he puts the book down, that fucking print wall is still going to be there, asshole. It's still going to be there. And it's not about the loss of the sale. It's about that was your kid, and at that point, I cared more about your kid's mental health, your kid's mental state than you did, and that's ridiculous.
No, I'll tell you, kids are important. Obviously, I have a lot of kids. I mean, I have a lot of children. For those of you in the audience, don't ask me how many. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Anyway, I have a lot of kids. So I told a joke at my friend's birthday. I said, my kids are everywhere. You know one, because that's probably my boy. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. On and on and on. Anyway, we had kids come to the booth, but 47 Furious Tales isn't appropriate for small children. Yeah. The RPG stuff that we were selling there was largely not appropriate for small children. Like Whispers of Persephone is not recommended for people under the age of 18. So. We had a lady came up and says, "Oh, my kids love comics. My kids love comics." I'm like, "How old are your kids?" And she's like, "Well, they're 10 and 8. I said, "Okay, I think you're awesome, but these books right here, good to meet you too, Brian. These books right here aren't appropriate for that age." I said, I wouldn't want to, sell a book to you, then you open it up and say, "Oh my goodness, why is this happening?" Because that's right. I said, there's no nudity in here or anything, but there's some really graphic violence. I said, but I know a couple of comic creators who are here who have books that work for that age range. And so I walked her on over to where those booths were, and they got some sales, and that was cool. The key thing is don't ruin your reputation by pushing stuff on the younger folks. Now, one thing we did do is I had some merchandise, some inventory, basically some posters that I had printed from the previous printer I used before I used Mix'em. And I don't sell those online now because they're a thinner paper than what you usually get from Sonoppa Publishing products. But I brought them with because I thought, well, we might have some kids who might be there. Because you've been to shows a lot. Sometimes you see kids and they're following their parents and they've got their costumes on. The parents have a lot of stuff, and sometimes the kids don't really have a lot because like the toys are usually in the collectible market, and a lot of the comics are kind of priced a little high. So we gave a lot of little freebies away to the little kids, right? So here you go, here you go, here you go. And so it was really kind of neat to see like children walking around the convention, and they had like Sonoppa Publishing posters that they were, flopping around and saying, "Look, Dad, look what I got," And it was just neat to do and to make happen. We made a lot of kids smile. When we ran out of those, I took and pulled the price tag off of the 5.5 by 8.5 Titania prints by Sandra Cole and started giving those away to little ones. And so we had a lot of little kids who left with Titania. I mean, a lot, like 70 or 80 kids who left with that piece alone. So
feel the same way, Sam. Hope to see you in San Antonio, buddy. You know I'll be there. Feel free to come bug me. Yeah, you know what? Too many people are worried about selling what's in front of them, and they don't realize that that $5 sale, that that one single book that you sold, could spoil you out of so much other stuff down the road, because you sold a $5 book to someone who is never going to pick up any of the other stuff again, because you sold to someone who shouldn't be reading it, or you were pushy and you were a dick, or so many other things. So by taking them to another publisher, or by helping them in some other way, you're still selling yourself, and you're at least not you're not taking down your name. You're not destroying it at all. And it's all about looking ahead into the distance, and not just looking at that next $5 sale.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Because you don't run a business off your next sale. You run your business off your customers, right? You have one customer isn't one sale. They need to be, 4 or 5 sales a year, 10 sales a year, every year. You need to build your loyalty. That's how you maintain your business. And you need to grow that number. You need to show respect to your customers. And I think part of that is, again, not trying to rake them over the coals every time you sell something. Just don't do it.
Clint Farley is another Texas guy that I love to hang out with and see at shows. He says, I give free prints with any original art piece or commission I sell. I rotate 12 prints displayed per show. I will give out free stickers to parents that are buttheads. Yeah, man. There's ways around stuff. I've literally given out free comics before to kids. Like I gave out a Dulce to a kid. I gave out a Cat Dad to a kid. And that's because the parents were being assholes, and the kid obviously wanted it. And I'm like, you know what? I just want you to have it. And that stuff's it's important, man. It's important for getting kids into comics, and it's important just for your own good karma. So always just be looking ahead. All that stuff is so important. Sam, dude, thank you so much for coming out. I love hanging out with you. You and I always have a good time, buddy.
I know, man. It's great talking to you, Chuck.
Thanks, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This is my boy, Sam. Please take good care of him. Check out his stuff. I know you're going to absolutely love it. And, of course, you know me. Next week, I'm going to be here with comic creator Jim Tanner. But, as always, my name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one, everybody.